Hi, my name is Dr. Jessie Fox. I'm coming at you from lovely Columbus, Ohio. And that's a lie because it is frigid and disgusting in Ohio today. But I'm an associate professor in the School of Communication at Ohio State University and director of the Vector Laboratory, which is currently on COVID hiatus. But today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about research and some things related to research methods. So let's see what the interrogators have prepped for us. All right, question one. What topics do you study in your research? To be honest, that answer would be all the things or nearly all the things. I think some researchers are really passionate about a certain topic or a certain method, but I'm more of an ooh, shiny. So my research is all over the place. Like if you've had a class in mass comm or interpersonal comm or comm tech or health comm or envirocom, intergroup comm, I've done all those things. So some of the things I've studied most recently are social identities, marginalization and discrimination, online harassment related to social identities online, various forms of media representations on movies, TV shows, newspapers, social media, and how that affects people, and relationships and social media, particularly interested in the dark side of romantic relationships and how technologies are affecting those interactions. I have some work in the space of true crime. I do some work in virtual reality. It's just kind of all over the place. What paradigm guides your work? To be honest, none. I object to claims in most every paradigm, so I can't really pick a team. And there are some issues that I'm truly deeply ambivalent about. Like I don't want to give any profs out there a heart attack, but I'd say that I'm paradigmatically agnostic. Don't put that down on your exam because your professors probably won't like that. But I'm not here to debate whether knowledge is objective or subjective. I have a doctorate in philosophy and communication, not in philosophy. So 3, what methods do you typically use in your research? Also all over the map, because I think that you can't pick a method if you don't know what your question is. And so the question should dictate the method. Otherwise, they have the expression that if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So you shouldn't be, just, oh, I'm good at this one method, so this is how I have to answer all my questions. And that's why I think it's important to use a variety of different methods. So I've used experiments, surveys, interviews, focus groups, quantitative analysis or content analysis, both quantitative and qualitative, thematic analysis, experience sampling, historical research, and I've even done some work with physiological data, and collecting spit out of people's mouth and analyzing it is just as exciting as it sounds. One last set of methods that people usually don't talk about in CommTech research is user examination, user experience research, usability testing. It's really important for us to understand kind of the basics of how people perceive and interact with any technology before we can possibly start, parsing apart what the effects are or how content delivered through these channels is going to affect people. So it's really, really a fundamental and oft overlooked set of methods knowledge. And in fact, it's probably not in your textbook, but really, really crucial. Question 4, what skills are important for new researchers to learn? Whew. I could go down a long laundry list because really research is a long set of interrelated skills, but I'll just pick one and I'll say organizational skills. You need to know upfront how to organize information that you're gathering, how to organize a study, how to lay out and plan in advance, and keep things precise and keep data organized, and even organizing your own time. Time management is an organizational skill, and it's crucial for researchers because we never have any time. So that would be the first thing that I put out there. I won't get into details on the other, but you really need to have, high search literacy and information literacy to be able to discern research to build your studies on. You need to have critical reading skills. You need to have a really, really deep understanding of validity of the methods that you're using. And, I don't know if it's a trait or a skill, but persistence, persistence, persistence. Question 5, what is a project you're working on right now that you're really excited about? Shiny. I'm excited about a lot of different things. If I had to pick one right now, the one thing that's been really distracted me from all the work that I've been needing to do this week, I would have to say the work that I'm doing on crime and media. It's keeping me up at night for many reasons. And finally, a methods topic to discuss. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here on research ethics, which always sounds like a super dry and boring topic, but is absolutely fascinating. And it really imbues everything. You should never read a study without thinking about it from an ethical perspective. You should certainly, have ethics on the forefront of your mind anytime you design a study. Anytime you interpret a study's results, like you have to have these issues kind of always in the forefront of your mind. So I won't get into the long history. I encourage you to look into that. It's really important. But I'm going to focus my conversation on the 3 ethical principles outlined in the Belmont Report, which was a document that was published in the US in 1979. And I like it because it's structured around these 3 things and really kind of gets at these core principles in an interesting way. So the first principle is respect for persons, which is good to practice in all veins of life. But in the research context, this means that has kind of two sides to it. First of all, that people have autonomy. You respect humans as people who are capable of making their own decisions. So in order to do that, in order for someone to make their own free will decision to volunteer and participate in a research study, you have to provide informed consent. Those forms that, you go into a study and you're like, not reading, click, click. That's actually a really big deal because we didn't always have those before then. Someone is telling you, they are required to tell you what they're going to do to you. So that's always good to think about. So how are you going to respect that person's right? How are you going to let them know what they're getting into, what they're going to experience, how you're going to handle their data, how you're going to protect their identity, how you're going to prevent harms, and how they're going to benefit from the study. The other side of that coin is that we have to protect people who might be vulnerable. For example, children or people with cognitive disabilities. They may not be able to have the same autonomy in those decisions. And so as a researcher, you might have to think more about what the harms are that's going to affect that person or that group of people because they are subject to more harm than others. The second principle is justice. And this is the idea that people get the same benefits from participating in research and that different groups and societies all benefit equally from research and have chances and the opportunities to be part of research and be represented in research, which is always a struggle because so many of our studies in communication are just sampled from college undergraduates. And that's a very, very skewed sample in terms of race and ethnicity, in terms of income, in terms of education level, obviously. So it's not representative and it's not inclusive to be only relying on college undergraduates for our samples. The last principle is beneficence. And, I think it's pretty easy for us to think about don't hurt people when you're doing research, but beneficence says that, you have to consider harms, but you also have to consider them within the context of benefits, and that all research should offer benefits. Not only and benefits of course should outweigh the harms, but research should have some good to it. It should be doing something. You can't just not harm people. And that those should be evaluated at the individual level for the person who's actually participating, but also at the society-wide level. So, which is a lot harder than you think to judge because, let's take something like a medicine that's coming out, that could cause the person who's in the study testing its effects harm. They could have really bad side effects, but in the long run, that could really benefit society. So you have to kind of make those decisions. And so the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through just a sample of what this looks like in a technological context, because that's where I do a lot of my research. And so think about these 3 concepts: the respect for persons, the justice, and the beneficence with the following kind of walkthrough we're going to do. So, you know, a lot of research into communication, they scrape data. They will just go into people's public Twitter accounts and they will take all your posts and all your followers and all your networks and analyze it and write papers. And, you know, they don't get your consent and they don't even tell you that they're doing it. And research tells us that actually like Twitter users aren't comfortable with that happening. But, you know, one advantage would be that that, of course, is going to be a more inclusive approach to getting information than, say, you know, just asking college students to provide access to their Twitter accounts. So, you know, do you think it's okay for people to go online and collect all their posts and information and analyze it and write papers on it without users' consent? So that's a question. Some people would say this is just like an observational study, you know, because this is public behavior, right? Because it's on the internet, therefore it's public. So maybe that's why you would think it's okay. It's public. You don't want it out that you don't want to analyze, don't put it out there. Okay, but you know, what about people who don't get it that it's public? What about those vulnerable populations we were talking about? You know, what about kids who are on there who aren't adults, who can't make informed decisions, who really don't understand that what they put out there on the internet is visible to people they don't know and could be used in weird ways? Is it okay to take kids' data? Or you know, those adults with cognitive disabilities who may not understand that? Or are we kind of taking advantage of vulnerable populations and, you know, the fact that they couldn't make a real decision on that? Maybe you're still like, you know, it's Twitter. It's just Twitter data. It's not that harmful, right? Okay, you know, well, what if the study decided to target people who had been tweeting about feeling depressed or having suicidal thoughts? And those were the accounts that they were targeting. And that's the information they were scraping, hashtag depression. Would that be okay? Well, now some people are probably like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. That's really terrible. Like those people are already going through a hard time. And now you're going to like, you know, collect all their data and then write about it in a paper. That's kind of taking advantage of people. That's not cool. Okay, well, if that's not cool, what if the researchers' point in doing that was because they're trying to develop a tool or a system that would, you know, notify people or put people in touch with resources when they were putting off signals that they were having a mental health crisis? Does that change your mind? Would that be okay? I don't have an answer for you. You know, if you've been going through these scenarios and kind of said yes and no and well and those are exactly the kinds of things that researchers who are facing ethical dilemmas kind of have to deal with on the day-to-day. These are just the complexities of any ethics in any study. We always have to think about, you know, how do I respect participants' rights and how can I ensure that my study benefits people and isn't causing harm to people? And how do I achieve justice in my research? So anyway, I hope I've given you some food for thought. Good luck this semester. Think real hard, break a sweat every day, and spend plenty of time away from screens. That's all I've got for you. Take care.